The sixth technical session begins here, chaired by Professor Abhyudita Gautam, Associate Professor, Department of English, Government College for Teacher Education, Dharamshala, Himachal Pradesh, India.
Hello, good evening. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so good evening. This is the last session, technical session in the conference room, the first conference room. And it's been a very insightful, all the presentations were so good and all the sessions also. In my session, we have the first speaker, that is Dr. Chitra Dhanapal. I hope she's there in the uh, list here. Dr. Chitra, is she here present?
I think she's not there, ma'am.
She isn't there. Then we go to the next speaker, that is Dr. Devendra Kumar Maurya. Dr. Devendra Kumar, are you here present? No, I don't think so. Then the next paper is of Dr. Disha Khanna and Dr. Mahesh Dogra.
I'm the one, ma'am. Thank you so much. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, I'm sorry. Your name, please.
I'm Dr. Disha Khanna. It is reflecting by Dean
All
SLA.
right, all right. Yes, yes. Disha, welcome to the session and all the best for your paper. Please go ahead.
Give me a minute because I would love to share my screen. If you just allow me 1 second.
Yeah. You can. You can. In the meanwhile, I would like to thank Dr. Shelja if she's here. Thank you so much for having me here and all the organizers also. And I can see a few of my friends. They have joined in. And are you ready?
Are you able to see my slides?
Yes, not your slide. It's showing as a screen broadcast. It is, I think, being downloaded.
Yeah. I'm just doing that, ma'am. Till then, if you allow me, I can begin.
Yes, please. I think it's
I can
visible.
even begin without that if you allow me. I'm comfortable both the ways.
Yeah, you can, please. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, the topic that I've taken up, so that is all pertaining to the writer, that is Mia Wallet. So Mia Wallet is a trans writer. And the topic that I have, which is displayed with you over the screen too, is about the transition, and it's about the transitional journey from self-loathing all over to self-love. The novel that I've picked up is Yes, You Are Trans Enough. And the title itself speaks a lot about how trans people, they undergo their lives throughout, and how the cisgenders, they have been readily acceptable. But then, yes, the trans community, they still face a lot of issues and glitches about their acceptance. The only thing I can say is about their self-actualization, that they, till the day they feel self-actualized, they accept themselves as they are. These transgenders, they will always be facing the same kind of the thing. Overall, I'll be discussing about my topic, which I've just thrown light. There will be few keywords of mine, which I'll be just sharing up. The topic is all about self-loathing. We people at times, we feel so much of hatred and detestation about our own selves that we do not even realize that how much we undervalue ourselves throughout our life. And we say that yes, self-love is something that is very easy, but I trust that yes, everyone around here since morning who are there in the session, they will agree with me that saying to self-love yourself or love your own self, stand in front of the mirror and just simply say that yes, you love yourself, it seems really easy. But when you really undertake it in doing it in practice, it becomes really complicated. And the same is being undertaken by these trans community people, especially Mia Violet, who herself is a memoirist, and this work itself is a memoir. So these trans community is one of the genders who faces self-hatred to the core. It's not that the people who show hatred towards them, that they do not accept. Mia Violet in the novel, she herself feels that yes, she is one who herself is not easily able to accept that who she is and what she is going through. So overall, the entire paper, it is reflecting the innermost transition of this character Violet from self-loathing all over to self-love, and in the context of the novel itself, that yes, you're trans enough. There are a few important keywords which I've taken up and I've used throughout my work now. The number one is acceptance. And I truly believe that unless or until we accept ourselves the way we are, the acceptance by the world will become really difficult. Counseling is one thing. Time to time, we keep seeking advice and suggestion from the people. But there are a few of them who just go for free of cost advices. But at the time, they do not entertain that in their life. The same was happening with Mia Wallet throughout the novel. There are certain inaccuracies. We all are not perfectly imperfect, including Gautamam, including Disha, right, me, and many people here who are here in the session. We all are being created by God Almighty, but yes, the gender which we are into, we need to accept ourselves as we are. And having a transition in our life seems, again, a complicated and Herculean task. We all feel that, yes, there is some limitation in me as my own character, as same as being reflected by Mia Violet. Because for her, being a trans itself was something that she was formed and created with abnormalities. So in the same way, she needs to have this transition in her life unless or until she feels that yes, there needs to be some change in herself. The change in the society can never be brought. So in this novel itself, Mia Violet has itself taken herself as a harbinger of this cultural change. Transgenders itself is a suffering community. And we could see it's not only in India and many people abroad. Violet herself is an American writer, and she herself was facing the same crisis. So we are trying to talk about that Indians, the Indian community itself, they face such glitches, but no. Such kind of prevalences of inaccuracies and acceptance, they are prevalent worldwide. It's only about our mindset, how we take them. Gender identity, there are three genders which are always there available on every form of ours also. In one of the third technical sessions, Kamini was the one who also talked about transgender, one of our fellow research scholars. She also said that yes, there are two genders which are readily available while selecting a form, a male or a female. And the third one, which the Indian community, which the government has accepted, is about transgenders. We still being a transgender, we take so much of loathing and detestation in marking a tick over there because we think that yes, the day we do that, there will be many people in the society who will not accept us readily. So the acceptance is the key to our own selves. Unless or until we accept who we are in our own skin, the people will not accept us. Another one is victimization. I think every gender itself is a victimized in its own self, be it a male or a female. We've been talking since morning a lot about female victimization, but I think yes, males to undergo a similar kind of a thing, provided they are the ones who feel so chauvinist in their own skin that they do not present it. In the same way, transgenders, either they are a male gender in their own skin, being castrated, or they are the female gender who's about to take that. In the same way, the objective of my paper stands in three key areas. Number one is to accept yourself as you are in your own skin. To love oneself, unless or until people love you, let's not wait for that. You start loving yourself, automatically the community in which you're living, they will automatically accept you as you are. You need to raise your voice. I am sure everyone here in the room, they will agree to me. Unless or until you are being faced with any kind of issues, unless or until you raise your voice, no one else will stand in favor of you. So these transgenders also need to take up a stance for themselves. As I just said, they need to be the harbinger of their own cultural change. Last one in my objective is to bring eternal peace at a universal level. Mia Violet, she takes up her chance in the novel, You Are Trans Enough. And she was not only fighting for her own self-rights, she was actually fighting for every trans community writer who was facing such kind of glitches. So the entire background to the writer, Mia Violet, it says that she, through her podcasts, she, through her essays, and she, through her own entire journey, she made sincere and hard efforts in bringing forward not only her trauma that she was going through, but of the trauma of the entire society, especially the transgenders who are being taken into the status. Transgenders, the status quo is not that easily acceptable. They need to cut across many barriers of their own self in order to be in this limelight. Mia Violet goes through the same thing. You need to fight, you need to have this combat of your self identity. Only then the world will realize Mia Violet did the same throughout, and you are trans enough. So, about the transitional journey from self loathing to self love, Mia Violet actually realized she delved within. She did her own thorough introspection and she realized her self worth. The day she realized her self worth, Violet, she basically took a call for her own self and at a universal plane, and she brought these trans people collectively as one community, and they all fought for their rights together. The memoir is all about how she and the other trans community people, they came united together and they fought for their own right. So Violet, she got enlightened that yes, life cannot be lived in self-loathing. She needs to take up a stance for her own self. Violet, in her own blogs, via the podcasts, via through her Instagram posts, created. People will be such, but that change needs to be brought by our own self. And we need to be the real cultural change, and we need to be the harbingers. Lastly, I would like to say that self actualization is the key of survival. Thus, in this work, yes, you are trans enough. The title already speaks about his being, Violet's being self actualized. Till the day these transgenders, they will keep seeking approvals from the outside. I'm sure they will never be able to gain any recognition in this materialistic world because you need to fight for your own self. So, on a very optimistic note here, I would like to culminate by saying that let's bring this cultural change together, just like Mia Violet, despite the gender you and me carry. And that is how we need to carry our own selves. We need to start loving who we are, how we are, and simply accept the most lovable part of my own self. Trans is beautiful, and so we all are. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Disha.
Thank you,
It was
Gautam ma'am.
indeed a very, very bold presentation from your side, and I would congratulate you. A very interesting work you have picked up, and you have kind of autobiographically, kind of identified with it. Now, I would like to really comment on what you said, but there is, we've been hearing about a lot of transgender studies going on, but then you have been attacked also. The community has been attacked also, and I'm sure you agree with that. So, of course, I'm not being critical, but if you would want to, if you feel comfortable, I would just ask you a question, or I would just ask your comments on the issue of morality and the issue of having children. What are
Okay.
your opinions about it? I just want you to be comfortable about it, and there is no compulsion to answer.
Professor Gautam, what I feel is a female should not get hooked just to bear babies. What I
Mhm.
feel is, if I feel that, yes, I know my words, I know who I am in my own skin, and I don't need the approval of the others. And even especially, the first approval comes from the family. So if I think that, yes, I'm capable enough of bearing a child, least bothering about who the people they're going to talk about me, even without getting married, it's something a big thing. And accepting easily here in the Indian community is actually a big question. But yes, we've been talking a lot about live-in relationships. And somehow, not everyone, but yes, the society has started accepting this concept too. So I think there's a huge generation gap of understanding and having children and having babies like this. But yes, when you come about moral values, if I just correlate both of these things together, so I think morality is a concept that has been created by people like you, people like me. There's no one who really defines what our moral values are. If I say that, yes, Professor Gautam, this is wrong, this is my perception of the thing, probably many others in the room, they may say that, yes, the thing is right. So the acceptance is all at our own end. Unless or until I know what I'm doing is right, I think no one else can help me out in knowing and in telling that, yes, whatever I've done is right or wrong. So holding babies and taking care of my moral values and ethics in such a society is something that is again a question mark in inverted commas, will always be there. But yes, some or the other, someone has to bring a change in this own self. And this is
Yes.
my mind. That is what I feel. And
There's a gray space that you all are living in, and of course, there's no black or white. Thank you so much for answering the question so very well. It was just I just wanted to know your views and nothing. As such, I'm not being critical at all. And congratulations, it was a wonderful paper.
my
Thank
pleasure,
you.
ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Uh, this is Dr. Disha, and the next speaker is Dr. Pallavi Bharadwaj. Hello,
Thank you
Pallavi.
so much, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Welcome to this session.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Pallavi Bharadwaj from Himachal Pradesh University, Shimla. And with the kind permission of the chair, I would like to present my paper titled Ernest Hemingway, War, Christian and Survival. The paper reflects on the very nature of war and the study analyzes whether experiencing a traumatic event, be it in childhood, adolescent, or the adulthood stage, affects subjective survival probabilities. Result shows that exposure to World War, be it 1, 2, increases SSPs, subjective survival probabilities. And as the people they have encountered the degradation of socioeconomic, health, and ethical characteristics to an utter extent. So I would like to present my paper now. Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning. Well uttered by Robert Kiyosaki, American businessman and author. Ernest Hemingway redesigned American literature. He paired storytelling to its requisites, metamorphosed the approach towards characters articulation, explored the globe with the precision of a writer, and left an ineffable testimony to the mannerisms associated with the living of the human beings. Hemingway has been influential in bringing out the history of America in the most significant manner through his characters. The characters delineated appear to be real life beings from history who have witnessed the traumas of World War I, directly or indirectly. During the early 1900s, when World War I took place, in the United States, the theme of the work of literature changed due to the impact of the event. The war brought a debilitating impact on Americans and the literature. Distinctively, World War I had its mark on the works of Hemingway, too, in works such as A Farewell to Arms and The Sun Also Rises. The characters are soldiers. A Farewell to the Arms portrays the protagonist, Frederick Henry, as an American soldier who fought for Italy, and how Frederick, quote, suffers from the compulsion to remember and retell his traumatic past from the standpoint of a survivor, both unable and perhaps unwilling to put that very past into words, unquote. During the war, Frederick got injured in the knee by a mortar, which changed his life, an autobiographical depiction of Hemingway's life. While recovering from war, both the character and the writer suffers depression. Their body and mind betray them drastically. The event of World War I had an impact on his work because his characters began to be in situation like his own. They shared many similarities with the way they loved their life because of the impact of the war. Like Hemingway's later novel, A Farewell to the War, The Sun Also Rises offers the reader two stories in one, a war story and a love story. What's remarkable about this book, truly radical, really, is the fact that it features no scenes of war battles whatsoever, not even in flashback, and no love scenes. Hemingway took an enormous challenge when he wrote this, his first full-length novel. Most readers would agree that he rose to that challenge and perhaps surpassed it. Some necessary historical background, World War I, or the Great War, as it was known at the time, began in August 1914 with the assassination of Austrian Archduke Francis Ferdinand. The war pitted the Central Powers against the allied forces of Great Britain, France, Russia, and Italy, who were joined in 1917 by the United States. Largely as a result of the entry of the United States into the conflict, the Great War ended in victory for the Allies. Both sides agreed to an armistice on November 11th, as shown by Hemingway. Other nicknames for the World War I, the war to end all wars, and the war to save democracy. There was a feeling on the part of many Americans who were drafted in 1917 and 18, as well as those like Hemingway himself, who enlisted for service in the armed forces of other allied nations before the United States entered the fighting, that they were involved in a conflict that would change the world in fundamental ways. Additionally, most returned home after the Antas War more worldly and sophisticatedly than when they left. And yet, the Americans who hadn't served were as provincial and isolationist as they had been before the war, more so, in fact. And as a new mood of convertism swept the country. One result of the ugly post-war mood was a series of novels by US writers critical of American provincialism, xenophobia, religious intolerance, and racism. These include Sherwood Anderson's Williamsburg, Ohio, Sinclair Lewis' Main Street and Babbitt, and American Tragedy by Theodore Dreiser. The journalist H.L. Mencken was the unofficial leader of the moment to satirize, criticize, and thereby strike blows against what many saw as moral failure on the part of American society at large. A second related response on the part of American writers involved leaving the country altogether, and many best-selling novelists, F. Scott Fitzgerald and modernist poet Ezra Pound, among others, did just that. They joined disaffected English and Irish men like Ford Madox Ford and James Joyce in Paris, in a social and artistic circle that formed around the writer Gertrude Stein, herself an American expatriate. Stein is responsible for one of the epigraphs that introduced The Sun Also Rises. And it was she who served as a creative writing teacher to Ernest Hemingway, who left the States in 1921. Hemingway himself had fought and was wounded in the Great War, and as a short story, Soldier's Home, illustrates the writer-to-be felt profoundly emulated upon his return to the United States. He moved to Paris with his first wife, Hadley, and in addition to making the acquaintance of Stein and her cohorts, he befriended many others. While employed as a foreign correspondent of the Toronto Star, Hemingway traveled Europe, wherein he wrote his major work, The Sun Also Rises. It is these experiences that provided him with then unique and forever unforgettable milieu of The Sun Also Rises, the so-called lost generation and their exploits in the cafes and nightclubs of Paris, as well as on the fishing trips and the bullfights in Spain, though this is easy to lose sight of amidst the story. In fact, one of the novel's primary dichotomies is between those characters who are war veterans and those like Robert Kahn who were not. Nearly everything that goes on in The Sun Also Rises is a reaction to the trauma of the war, both physical and psychic, from the most unbelievable consumption of alcohol by the veterans and their compulsive traveling from place to place, and the healing fishing trip taken by Jake and Bill. If the Great War hadn't happened, we are meant to understand these characters would be choosing very different things, a state which brings us to The Sun Also Rising as a love story. The problem, Jake has been wounded in the war in such a way that sexual intercourse is not possible for him. Significantly, the particular nature of his wound has not ruled our desire. Just World War, just to quote, I would say that in Sun Also Rises, it becomes quickly evident that Jake cannot get rest. Thus, The Sun Also Rising carries the backdrop of war, which pictures the sketches of American British expatriates who travel from Paris to the festival of San Fermin in Pamplona to watch the running of the bulls and the bullfights. They are all members of the cynical and disillusioned lost generation who came of age during World War I. And this work is probably Hemingway's greatest novel, largely because it is more inventive in its treatment of love and war than other works. A Farewell to Arms is also carries the same string. The Third Grand War, the story of Hemingway, which catches the eyes of both the readers and the critics throughout the world, is For Whom the Bell Tolls. The work relies partly on flashback for its effect, and also descends at times into the stylistic mannerism that mars Hemingway's later work, For Whom the Bell Tolls is a novel published in 1940, which tells the story of Robert Jordan, a young American volunteer attached to a Republican guerrilla unit during the Spanish Civil War. As a dynamiter, he's assigned to blow up a bridge during an attack on the city of Segovia. The novel grows out of Hemingway's personal interest in the Spanish Civil War of the 30s. While still a foreign correspondent in Paris, Hemingway had watched the Spanish political situation developing under the reign of Alfonso XIII. Certainly, Sun Also Rises is vastly superior to the remaining Hemingway's novels, be it To Have and Not Have, and Across the River and Into the Trees, and posthumously published Islands in the Stream and The Gardens of Eden, as well as the novellas The Torrent of Spring. Therefore, the other works, along with these works, which I would like to conclude with, that a story collection in our time, the debutant work, it also stands up to the comparison with the Great War narrative, a collection that represents post-war tales, soldier homes, and Big Two-Hearted River, an account of war's destructiveness. Ernest Hemingway's life and work thus are profoundly informed by war and survival, which he with full veracity strives to delineate through his characters. Accordingly, the writer emphatically justified the notion, temper us in fire and we grow stronger. When we suffer, we survive. Survive. Commenting on this experience, years later in Men at War, Hemingway maintains, to conclude, quote, when you go to a war as a boy, you have a great illusion of immortality. Other people get killed, not you. Then when you are badly wounded, the first time you lose that illusion, that you know it can happen to you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Pallavi, for a wonderful presentation. You brought back the memories of the war literature that we've been talking about, that we've been studying. And I must say that it was a very well-formulated paper. You have taken up a theme, and you've taken up the different works of Ernest Hemingway, and you've talked about the impact of the world wars on the world literature as such, which is a very important subject for us. Now, Dr. Pallavi, I think you have taken up very important subjects and very important issues like joining the army, everyone forced to join the army during the war, the trauma after the war that that people suffer from. Then the best quote that what happened? Are you not able to?
No. Actually, my son has come, so he was disturbing me. So sorry.
I could make out from your expression that your son is troubling you. Anyway, that's one of the disadvantages of presenting from home. Anyway, and I think the best quote that was a big war to end all the wars. And the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are an example of this. I think it have been justified because America always justifies that we had to end the war, and to kind of discontinue the war, we had to use the nuclear bombs, which was of course very ironical. Ma'am, you presented a very well paper. I would just like to ask you your views on of course, Ernest Hemingway lived in a very different period of time. But in the present scenario, do you think what kind of an impact the wars that we are facing, that we are seeing nowadays, will have on literature? Just your point of view.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, like we have seen very recently the Ukrainian war. Yes, yeah. We have seen that Ukrainian-Russian war. So I feel if we are correlating it with literature, so literature is a reflection of a society. Likewise, if we'll be talking about India, so we are not at this moment, fortunately, we are not in that tone where we are facing such kind of hurdles or obstructions. But if a person from Ukrainian end, if a person from literature background, definitely is having that debilitating impact on his psyche. And out of that, he will for sure write what he has felt or what his people are feeling at this moment of time too. And I would like to just quote here that winning requires a reaching inside of yourself for that extra gear to accelerate challenges. So when you know that these are our challenges, definitely you will put those features into your work. You will showcase them. You will portray them through your characters. Like if Hemingway, he was himself a part of World War. Thereby, he reflected through his characters that agony, that pain. So I personally felt that that literature, though it's a reflection of the society, it will for sure reflect the scenario which the people, the inhabitants, they are going through.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
We'll have the next presenter, Dr. Prantik Banerjee and Vikas H. Meshram, if they are present here.
Yeah, ma'am. I'm present here. Am I audible clearly?
Yes, yes. Good evening. Please go ahead with your paper.
Yeah,
I think your
co-author of this paper.
post black is new
I'll be
black.
present.
That is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you, madam. Thank you for giving me opportunity of presenting my paper here. Honorable Chairperson of the technical session and other participants, my top. Let me first of all request you. May I share my PPT, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
If
Please.
I can.
You may. Yes, you can share. Are you able to?
Yeah, present now. Yeah, I'm sharing my
There's
PPT.
an option given below.
Just 1 second, ma'am. Yeah, is it
Yes.
visible?
Yes, yes, it is. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, Honorable Chairperson and our other participants, the topic of my research papers today is Post-Black is New Blacks, Aesthetic Postmodernity in African American Literature. Yeah. In this paper, I'll be briefly talking about the kind of generational shift or paradigmatic shift that happened in African American literature after 1970s. There had been some movements which brought about big changes in the aesthetic, aesthetic appreciations or aesthetic qualities of the African American literature. We all know that African American literature began as a medium of, as a medium of registering the protests and social protests and indignant emotions of the African American people because of the racial and subservient kind of treatment they were given by the American whites. Before 1960s, we find that there was such a literature. The Afro-American writers were giving importance to the topics of racism and importance to what we can say, how they can express their views regarding racism and all that. Before 1970s, we find that there was such a kind of obligation on each and every writer of representing blackness and the ghetto black culture in their literature. If you go through the articles written by Horace Fuller and some other scholars, we find that the earlier black aesthetics, in earlier black aesthetics, the writers, Afro-American writers, were it was compulsory for them to represent black culture, to represent to the ghetto black culture, especially black life, and also to present a very positive kind of black image. So this kind of racial obligation was there before 1970s, but after that, after 1970s, there came, I mean, on the field of African American literature, there came some writers, one after the who tried to give a little paradigmatic shift to this kind of trend of writing literature. After 1970s, there arose some writers who began to feel that the obligation of representing race and blackness was somehow limiting the scope of their, writing, and in this way, these writers started revolting, or revolting against the old paradigm of the African American literature. After that, after 1970s, several of these writers, started writing against, not against, but they started writing and they started satirizing and parodying the same sacred social concepts and social movements which were earlier considered to be so, sacred. Earlier, before 1970s, there was a system of isolating works which have not depicted black experience. That means Afro-American critics, would not give much importance to such works which do not depict the black experience of black ghetto culture. And in this way, there was that compulsion of giving due representation to the blackness and race. But this very compulsion had become a burden to the writers after 1970s, and in this way, there was emergence of cultural mulattoes. Let me now, first of all, define you the term cultural mulattoes. There are biological mulattoes and there are cultural mulattoes. Trey Ellis was the Afro-American scholar who had defined this term cultural mulatto. Cultural mulatto means a person of mixed origin, mixed racial origin, mulatto. And cultural mulatto is that person who has a mixed race, who is educated of mixed cultural background and who can easily navigate through the white areas also. Such a black person who is black, but still he was the person who is born and brought up in white areas and who can easily navigate through the white areas is called cultural mulattoes, because he is educated in a mixed cultural kind of background. So these cultural mulattoes who came after 1970s had no first-hand experience of racism and segregation, and so they started, just unburdening themselves of the burden of racial representation, and in this way they started writing against the sacred concepts of Black Arts movement of 1950s and 60s. So this was the kind of general shift which happened. Houston Baker Jr. has called it a generational shift. He meant to say that these cultural mulattoes who came after 1970s, they gave a generational shift to the Afro-American paradigm of literature and arts, in a sense that they refuted the old obligations of the old generation, and also they developed their own paradigm of literature. They own their own framework of literature, and that is with this meaning, Houston Baker Jr. has called it a generational shift. And in this way, there was that emergence of new black aesthetics. It is said that after 1970s, these cultural mulattoes, the writers who have mixed kind of cultural experiences, and they give little importance to racial representation and themes of racism and all those. They expressed mixed kind of thoughts in their literature. That is the reason they were called cultural mulattoes. And Trey Ellis was the person who wrote and defined and recognized these new black aesthetics and wrote a manifesto of this new aesthetics in 1989. Of course, he has says, Trailis has said that they were minority of minorities. Minority in the sense because they belong to black community, and minority in the sense because they were, hated by both. I mean, they were discriminated by both whites and blacks because they were cultural mulattoes. These writers were cultural mulattoes, and they did not write to impress both white or blacks. They just, traded their own paths. They did not deal with the old racial themes, which which were so dear to the old generation writers. So in this way, there was this paradigm shift, aesthetic paradigm shift. I mean to say, which was brought about by these kind of writers. These writers rebelled against, as I have said, against the racial obligations, and they primarily put forth the demand of freedom from all sorts of bondages or obligations. The kind of obligations which have been put upon the shoulders of which have been put upon the shoulders of writers by the proponents of black arts movement of 1940s and 50s. These cultural mulatto writers wanted freedom from all that of bondages and obligations because they thought that these bondages, these obligations limit the scope of their literature. And in this way, started revising and putting to revision everything that was sacred to earlier black movements or black aesthetic. They started mocking and satirizing everything, from ghetto culture, from black movements to even racism. The kind of upbringing the black children is given in their houses. They started mocking and satirizing everything. And one of the best example of this, Trey Ellis's Platitude, Trey Ellis's novel Platitude, or Percival Everett's novel Erasure, and recently Paul Beatty's novel Sellout is also, and the White Boy Shuffle of Sellout. Paul Beatty. These are some of the examples, very good examples of this kind of mocking and satirizing. These culture, Trey Ellis has said that, Trey Ellis has described what kind of writers were these cultural mulattoes, new black aesthetic writers. They didn't deny or suppress their cultural baggage. Of course, they knew what kind of cultural baggage they had. They knew that they belonged to Afro-American community, and it is their responsibility to bring forth the social kind of issues. But still, they didn't think that race and racism was the kind of excuse for the mediocrity of their literature. And in this way, they didn't try to please blacks or whites, and they traded their own path. And they also refuted the work of their intellectual predecessors and established a new literary framework, to which we know as New Black Aesthetics. Now, what were the features of these New Black Aesthetics? Here, my paper is going to deal with the paradigmatic shift, or not actually, how the post-Black aesthetics, which emerged after the election victory of Barack Obama, was itself very much similar with the New Black aesthetics. And that is the reason that I wanted first every one of you to see these qualities, these characteristics actually of New Black aesthetics. First one is true objectivity. As I have said, these New Black aesthetics had no first-hand experience of racism and segregation. They were cultural mulattoes. They had mixed kind of racial and cultural experience. So they followed objectivity in with respect to race. They did not wrote as if they were writing for social, for registering their social protest. No, they did not want to, what you can say, offend the white readers. Neither they want to praise the black readers. In this way, they kept true objectivity in their literature. Then the second one is a depiction of mulattoes experience. As said, cultural mulatto writers, they depicted their own kind of lives and their experiences. Mulattoes kind of experiences in their literature. The third chief characteristic is hybridity in art and literature. Of course, these cultural mulattoes were themselves in their ethical and cultural kind of aspect, they were hybrid. So these hybrid writers, gave birth to hybrid kind of art and literature. It was not completely kind of literature where racism was criticized, nor was it completely kind of literature where whites or white culture was praised. In this way, they gave birth to hybrid kind of art and literature. Then there was revision of, as I have said earlier also, they started revising. These new black aesthetic writers started, and even the new writers of the 21st century also, there is a complete revision of whatever there was earlier sacred. There were black styles, themes, methods, all these they put to revisionism. Then another important thing about these new black aesthetic writers is satire and parody. They extensively use satire and parody, not only to putting to revision all the black styles, methods, black movements and black life and everything, but also to criticize the the racial scenario in America, the white system. To instead of directly putting it to criticism, they used such means, satire and parody, to bring forth what they thought about all that. Then the most important thing are the we can say the kind of postmodern qualities these new black aesthetic writers have is the technique of metafiction. Writers like Trey Ellis in his Platitude and writers like Percival Everett in his Erasure, which was published in 2001. These writers used, and several others also, I'm just giving a few examples. These writers use technique of metafiction. Metafiction is writing a novel to praise or deny a novel, or novel within a novel. We are very much familiar with drama within a drama. But here they used novel within a novel. So this kind of writing is called metafiction, and they extensively use this kind of technique, metafiction, in their novels. Then there is subjective doubling. This is also one of the postmodern qualities in their novels. Subjective doubling. Trey, again, I will say, Trey is in Platitude, and Percival Everett in his Erasure, and also in his most recent novel, I Am Not Sidney Poitier, which was published in 2009. They use subjective doubling, and now this term subjective doubling was used by Griffin, Sarah Griffin. She meant to say that one character has to play two roles in the same novels, and one character does not know. One character cannot deny the other kind of identity he has. So there is such kind of complicated stories. There are such kind of complicated stories in the novels of Trey Ellis and Percival Everett. And the last but not least feature of this new black aesthetic is linguistic bricolage. Linguistic bricolage, you might be knowing, using different kind of dialects, and idioms in writing. So we find Percival Everett in the writing of Percival Everett and Paul Beatty, and the most recent one also, Maurice Cornelius Ruffin, this kind of linguistic bricolage used in their novels. They use sometimes Latin or sometimes French kind of idioms and statements in their they include in their narrative. So this is linguistic bricolage. So these were, in brief, I tried to sum up the features, the main features of the new black aesthetics. Now let us move on to the discussion of post-blackness.
So sorry to interrupt, but could you please just rush up, because I think we're running out
Yeah.
of time. No, you
Yeah,
can continue with your presentation, but please be a little swift in presenting.
Yeah.
Be brief.
I'll be
What I mean to
concluding
say.
within 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you can explain, but in brief, please.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Let us discuss post-blackness. After the election victory of Barack Obama in 2004, we know that in 2004 he became the first Afro-American black, American president, and that symbolized postness for several authors and scholars. So many authors like Mary Campbell, then Greta Snyder, and Conrad Murray, and Christian Schmidt, and another one, Cameron Leader Picone. All these writers started calling it a post-black aesthetic instead of new black aesthetics. So there was this label changing or label transforming kind of sentiment among the Afro-American scholars, but still the characteristics remain the same. Every writer, even after the collection victory, even after the Afro-American aesthetic or Afro-American literature began to be called as post-black aesthetic, every scholar and writer was trying to give importance to the same characteristics, like obligation of representation, representative imperatives, departure from normative understanding of blackness, and resistance to claims of authenticity, and also to the normative emphasis, resistance to discourse of authenticity. In this way, authenticity, that means what can be called an authentic black literature. So earlier, in the period of Black Arts movement before 1960s, authenticity was so much defined and so much compulsory, but not for the writers of new black aesthetics, and not even for the writers of 21st century, that is post-black writers. They all wanted freedom from this authenticity or from this obligation of representation, which I have put it here. I have put it slide, the quotations, which can explain better what they mean by post-blackness, and how this post-blackness was very much near to the new black aestheticism. That is the reason that I have, I have given such a title to my paper. Post-black is new black. Aesthetically, there was no difference, even though there was label change. The only thing I would like to, 1 minute. Yes, the only difference that we find in post-blackness and new blackness is that, as Christian Schmidt, the scholar, the most recent writer or scholar who has studied and written a book on post-blackness in 2017, he published his book in 2017 as Post-Black Aesthetics. He says that post-blackness is neither a refusal to deal with the issues of race, nor is it a naive position that acts as if race no longer were an issue. That means the writers of the 21st century or post-black period are in a double kind of, are in a dilemma. Neither they can, deny that, neither they can refuse to be merely black social protest fiction, and at the same time, they have to inevitably always deal with the racially tinged realities. So they have to pick up that racial kind of theme, but still they deny that they are a realist or protest kind of fiction. In this way, there is this complicated kind of situation for these writers. But still, as Christian Schmidt has said in his book Post-Black Aesthetics, that he will not call it a post-black art or literature unless it deals with race. So in this way, we find that the only difference between the new black aesthetic and the post-black aesthetic is that there is a reintroduction or re-emergence of the issue of race in the present writing of the 21st century. Otherwise, there is no difference between these terms. These are only terms of convenience. As Paul C. Taylor is another scholar, which I have not mentioned here. Paul C. Taylor has said that these are only synonymous kind of terms, which mean the same thing. So there is no fundamental difference between post-black and new black kind of aestheticism. They mean the same thing. I am very thankful. Here I concluded, madam. Yeah, I stopped presenting. Let me stop there. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vikas Meshram. I think it was a very well-researched and a very well-formulated paper. It was very interesting also, especially talking about the literary paradigm shift from black, from post-black to new black. And of course, the terms were very, very new and very interesting also. You have thrown light on a lot of things in one paper itself, but of course it was very meaningful. Now I would just want to ask you one thing, a very simple question. That yes, you wanted to say something?
I have tried to put everything in a very brief manner because I have written more than 50 pages on this very topic. So
yes,
it was part of my study actually.
Yeah, it seems so. I could guess so. But yes, it is indeed a very interesting study. In fact, we've been talking about Native American literature also, and then the black literature of the black, and now you're talking about post-black and new black. Now, my question here is, do you think all these shifts have actually kind of, dissipated, or you can say diluted the purpose of, racist writings, or the purpose, of these writers to actually bring forth the kind of marginalization that they face, racism that they face, because they've been living, the new generation has been living in the US, which is more, developed and more modern. You can say ultra modern now. Modern also seems to be old. So do you think there is a kind of a dilution of the purpose of this kind of a literature?
Not much actually. Of course, as I have said, new black or post-black writers do not give that much importance to the race because they think that race and racism is a constant kind of thing which does not change, and so it cannot be an excuse for the mediocrity of their literature, as Trey Ellis had also said so. But still, race has become an integral part of 21st century writing. I'm coming to your question. Though they have put everything to revisionism, they satirize their own black movements and American social arena also, racist arena. But still, I'm sorry.
It's okay. He's feeling marginalized.
Yeah. Still, they cannot, as Christian Smith, I have put it earlier, they cannot sever themselves from the topic of racism or race. They have to deal with it. Being an African American writer, they have to deal with it. Though they deal with it not in a manner the earlier old generation writers would do. They many a times they just making it a laughing stock. They satirize it. They ridicule racism and overall stereotypical kind of attitude the white Americans have for the black people or Afro-American people. They do not directly, what we can say, condemn it, condemning. They satirize or they try to.
What you mean to say is they're trying to ignore this perspective, this.
Not completely.
Not
there
completely,
but
they want to shift
for the Afro-American writers.
They want
Neither
to
they can deny that they are racial or Afro, black writers. They do not call themselves black writers. This is the important thing. They do not call themselves black or Afro-American writers. They only call themselves writers. They deny that they are kind of racial writers. The kind of identity which was used for the earlier writers is not acceptable These kind of writers like Percival Everett, like Trey Ellis, like Paul Beatty, and most recent one, Maurice Corvus Ruffin, and many others. They deny that they are black or Afro-American kind of social protest writers, but still they put such kind of material in their novels. I have studied Paul Beatty's. Somebody is presenting. Okay, I have studied Paul Beatty's Sail Out. I have studied Paul Beatty's White Boy Shuffle, Percival Everett's novel, Maurice Corliss Ruffin's novel. They deal with a issue of race, but not in a directly condemning kind of manner, so that white readers, they have eye on white readers, because Africa, they know that they're not, the number of Afro-American readers or black readers is not that much great. So they have eye on white readers. They do not want to offend the white readers. So this is the kind of precaution they take in their writing. Otherwise, there is, indirect kind of.
But they haven't
the issue of
forgotten the
race.
real purpose. You mean to say, but they haven't really forgotten the real purpose. That is what I wanted to know. Thank you so much for answering the question so well and attempting, and of course you have made it so clear to us. Thank you so much for such an informative paper.
Thank you, madam.
I would again ask if the presenters, Dr. Chitra Dhanpal or if Dr. Devendra Kumar Maurya are present. We can have the presentation or we can end the session here. And if anyone has any kind of a query, you're most welcome to ask, please. Please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am. Just a moment. Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ekta Chahal, and I'm going to present my paper on Rebecca Solnit's Man Explain Things to Me. And I'm currently working as an assistant professor in Neelam University, Kathal, Haryana. So the objective of my study is that young women needed to know that being belittled wasn't the result of their own secret failings. It was the boring old gender wars. I want to explain a little before to get into my topic directly that women always face a kind of a complexity or inferiority among the men, and men always are trying to teach them that they know better than them. So here Rebecca Solnit very neatly explained in her essay Men Explain Things to Me, which is written in 2014, and it's a collection of 7 essays. And the main essay of which was cited in the New Republic as the piece that launched the term mansplaining, when men are explaining to a woman that he knows better than her. So that is also the objective of my study, to highlight men who wrongly assume they know things and wrongly assume women don't. So let's come to the essay. Men Explain Things to Me consist 7 essays in it, and 2 essays, Wolf's Darkness, Embracing the Inexplicable, 2009, and Cassandra Among the Creeds, which was included later, along with the Yes, All Women Feminists Rewrite the Story. So it's a feminism-oriented essay, and the term mansplaining. This term is used to define the action of a male explaining something to a female condescendingly or patronizingly, simply because he thinks that males are the superior sex and women wouldn't be able to understand it otherwise. So whenever women trying to explain on any topic or any kind of thing, most of the time male used to interrupt women and try to explain that content, that subject according to their point of view. So this is the term mansplaining, which Rebecca Solnit directly doesn't use this term in her essays, but it was told that she meant to use mansplaining when she talked about this kind of dominance of men. So Men Explain Things to Me It's an essay with an absence of credibility to female voices. In the male mind, issues like violent death, abuse, harassment, and rape are often discounted. In this way, Solnit argues female silencing is a dangerous phenomenon. See, whenever we are going through any kind of harassment or any kind of molestation, any kind of abusive experience, so we always remain quiet. And here is a question arises: why will we will remain quiet? Why don't we raise our voice against these kind of silencing ills and evils, which always give a rapid growth to these kind of crimes and harassment and this kind of exploitation? So the first essay is entitled as The Longest War. Women is not facing this kind of discrimination in this present scenario from 21st century. They are facing it since very past. So Solnit especially focuses on the rape and death of Jyoti Singh in New Delhi, which was the very highly controversial case where a medical student was raped by 6 people, and also there was a juvenile among those rapists, and her friend was very brutally beaten, which was really heart-rending. And even this is the case of Nirbhaya, because we know this case. We very well know that female by the name of Nirbhaya. So this is really need to think over it, that we need to stop all this. We need to, when there is a lock on this kind of things, that these things will be outspoken very liberally and very openly. Next essay is of Worlds Collide in a Luxury Suite, some thoughts on the IMF global injustice and a stranger on a train. This incident was also a very big controversial topic, that the managing director of International Monetary Fund, in response to the rape of Nafisa Diallo, here that he is having the advantage of a higher post, and that even after committing the rape, he already convinced the people that he didn't do this kind of crime. This was the very pathetic response, and even the very disappointing consequences that victims are facing, that rapists suddenly got the side of law, and they always try to save themselves. Now, this is the essay in praise of the threat, what marriage equality really means. So here Solnit poses the idea that the backlash to same-sex marriage by proponents of traditional marriage comes from a place of ideological misogyny. Solnit also theorizes that since same-sex marriages no longer operates in the confines of traditional gender roles, which we known as lesbian or gay marriages, they represent a threat to the traditional marriage structure, as they are unions between equal partners. So these kind of equal marriages also shake the walls of those orthodox or structural or conventional marriage structure. Now, this is the essay entitled as a Grandmother Spider. Solnit described how the disappearance of women is akin to helping to create the web of the world, but never to be caught in it. Like, she always there for everyone, for their family, kids, friends, partner. But what about herself? What about herself? What about credit when there is a time to give credit to her efforts? So family trees, where here Solnit talks about that family trees that contain only men, and how the confinement of women to household in the homemaker role adds to the erasure of women in text and in history. We always, treated men as a head of the family. Why not women there? Because always women always putting her head to toe efforts in the constitution of a family, and putting her 100% to the development of the family. Why we ignore women? So Solnit here arises a question that why. So here Solnit also talks about the influence of Virginia Woolf. Everyone knows about Virginia Woolf, and she also caught her famous quotation here: "The future is dark, which is the best thing the future can be, I think." So this essay provides a meditation on the idea of an uncertain future. Uncertain future means like there should be no planning of future, because it will always disappoint us when we plan something and that will not fulfill on the in future. So never plan things and don't think that things will go according to your perception. Future will must be here. Virginia will talk about that the future is dark. She means that future is that we don't know about the future, but the future will be. We should live in the present. We should develop ourselves in the present. We should put our efforts to embrace the present things which we have in our hands. Here's the last second essay, Cassandra Among the Crepes. So Solnit addresses the question.
Sorry, Ekta, to interrupt you. Kindly please rush up because I think we're running out of time.
Sure, ma'am.
Please
Solnit addresses the question of credibility, who gets to be believed and why, and how women are questioned, especially when they speak out about abuse, harassment, sexual assault, and rape. Even this essay was also published in the Harper's Magazine. And the last one is, yes, all women feminists rewrite the story, which was written in the 2014. And this is the Man Explain Things to Me is the total, collection of these essays from 2008 to 2014. Solnit meditates on the power of naming and language throughout feminist history. Even touches on the coinage of now commonplace phrases such as sexual harassment, domestic violence, and rape culture. She very strongly and very transparently and very boldly talk about this kind of sexual harassment, domestic violence, and rape culture. Even silent sexual harassment, which was usually done by partners, boyfriends, friends, or anyone in the family. So, and the last one, Pandora's Box and the Volunteer Police Force, that Solnit writes that the fight for women's rights is not yet over. We are still in a war. We are still struggling to show that we are equal. We are still struggling to banish those paradox thoughts and orthodox mentality. We are still trying to convince people that, oh, please, we are not from other planet. We are just equal. Women should not be bounded in the walls or in restrictions of some kind of social structure or social norms. They have full right to be free and to live as per their choices. So these are the very influential quotes which I have collected from Rebecca Solnit's essay. The stars we are given, the constellations we make. That is to say, stars exist in the cosmos, but constellations are the imaginary lines we draw between them. The readings we give the sky, the stories we tell. So these are the quotations. To be hopeful means to be uncertain about the future, to be tender toward possibilities, to be dedicated to change all the way down to the bottom of your heart. So these quotes always inspired me to feel blessed to be a woman, and I'm sure every woman should proud of herself, and it's a God grace that we are capable enough to perform multi roles in one life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ekta. I think you have picked up essays and
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's a collection of essays.
feminism and okay. And you've picked up a lot of things like sexual harassment, raising your voice. Basically, you want to talk about raising your voice and speaking against. Your presentation did not work. We were all looking forward to that. And you did not even switch on your camera. So we wanted to have a kind of a glimpse into the presentation or you speaking anyway.
Actually, I have shared the PPT.
Yeah, but it wasn't visible. I don't think it was working anyway.
Oh,
Yes, it did not work.
I
I did not see it
settings
working.
on the screen.
Yeah, we could not see it. Anyway, so yeah, it was good paper. And are you working? Are you working on this subject?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, my topic was an Indian writer, Nayantara Sehgal, and I'm very really interested in the feminism. And I have recently read about Rebecca Solnit, and I am really influenced with her works.
Okay, all the best.
Thanks.
It's a good paper, and I don't think we can ask much on this paper. It was good presentation. Thank you.
Thank
Can
you
we
so
have the next presenter, please?
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to apologize for the misunderstandings. So, it is to inform you that there are 8 participants in your technical session. Due to
Okay, I
page
was given
breakage, okay, ma'am, please
okay.
continue.
Yes, I was given a list of only 5 speakers, so that is why I did not ask people to rush up because I thought 2 were absent, 2 were not presenting, so I could have actually asked them to be brief. Anyway, now we have how
Sorry,
many?
ma'am, but due to page breakage, the last page may be unnoticed. First, we also had this confusion, but now it's clarified. So there is a last presenter, Jubina Rosa. So I please
Okay, so the
request
last
you to
one.
proceed with her.
No problems, no issues. Please carry on. Jubina, Rosa.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening. Actually, here it's raining here. Due to that, I don't know whether I can speak well or it will be clear or I don't know. Anyway, I'm the last presenter, and also always everyone is from the morning itself. Sessions are started, and now everyone is. I think it's fed up, and
No, nothing like that. We have a new technical session, and everyone is fresh in the beginning. Anyway, can you please switch on your camera? Can you? Are you able to?
1 second. 1 second. No.
Anyway, Jubina, you can continue with your paper. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Okay.
I can see you now. Hello.
Okay. Okay. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Okay, my title of the paper is A Compromise with Celebrity Culture, reading Last Night at Chat Moment by Lauren Wisberger. So, as you know, Lauren Wisberger is an American novelist and the author of the bestseller The Devil Wears Prada, which can be considered as a Roman eclipse of her real life experience that is put together in a sequential order. So, as I have mentioned, Wisberger is an American novelist. I'm skipping all the details regarding the novelist and all. Directly, I'm going to read the paper. So, okay. So the story of the novel, The Last Night at Chat Moment, revolves around the 2 main characters, Brooke and Julian. So they are living a happy life in the city of New York, and Brooke is the breadwinner of that family, their family. So she is working two jobs, and Julian, on the other hand, he's a struggling musician, and the husband, and he's a musician by profession. So after getting the fame, a celebrity, as a becoming a celebrity, both of them, they are moving in an exclusive circus, dining at the glitziest restaurants, attending the most outrageous parties in town, and jetting off to the trendiest hotspots. But Julian's newfound fame means that Brooke must face the savage attentions of the ruthless paparazzis. And when a scandalous picture hits the front pages, Brooke's world is turned again upside down. And the story of Last Night at Chart Moment revolves around the two main characters, as I have mentioned, Brooke and Julian. These are the main characters in the novel, and uh, and uh, and so this novel has just enough, it had just enough real life drama mixed with celebrity to make it interesting and fun. So it takes you through the trials and tribulations of fame while also adding in behind the scenes information. So it's a perfect novel for the modern girl who is interested in fame and fortune but also wanted to stay grounded. And Brooke was drawn to the soulful, enigmatic Julian after the very first time she heard him dive bar. And now, 5 years after their marriage, Brooke balances these two jobs as a nutritionist in a hospital and as a consultant to an Upper East Side girls' school where privilege gone wrong and disordered eating run rampant in order to help support her husband's dream of making it in the music world. So things are looking up when, after years of planning Manhattan clubs and toiling as an intern, Julian finally gets signed by Sony. So, although no one's promising that the album will ever hit the airways, Julian is still dedicated to logging in long hours at the recording studio. So, all that changes after the Julian is asked to perform on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno and is capitulated to stardom literally overnight. So amazing opportunities were begin popping up almost daily. So at first, the newfound fame is fun, yet it seems that Brooke's sweet husband, a man who can't handle hot showers and wears socks to bed, is increasingly absent even on those rare nights they are home together. So when rumors about Brooke and Julian swirl in the some magazines, she begins to question the truth of her marriage and is forced to finally come to terms with what she thinks she wants and what she actually needs. So magazine has a great role in this kind of fiction, as I really forgot to mention that Last Night at Chart Moment, we can consider this novel as an example for chick fiction, so American chick fiction. And so magazines magazine has a great role in this kind of chick fictions, and it helps to form a body conscious youth, in particularly in among women. And so the image of body creates such a pattern of love, relationship, and market deliberately. So market will be able to gain their targets and profits by forming the cultural dogmas or cultural attitudes. And here in the fiction, the novelist depicts the same kind of experiences. Let me quote: the editor of from the novel itself. The editor of a men's magazine who was rehearsing with his publicist the 10 weight loss tips he planned to discuss. A well-known chick lit author holding her most recent novel in one hand and her cell phone in the other hand, looking supremely bored as she scrolled through her call list. So it's from I caught from the novel Last Night at Church Moment, page number 226. Brooke and Julian are they are enjoying the holidays in Hamptons, adorning the cover of Vanity Fair, and attending every kind of parties in town. So all the while his career is reaching new and dizzying heights, but the trappings of this elite lifestyle mean or what our like heroine must face the wrath of the US press. So scorned for having a less than perfectly honed body. The lifestyle of new emerging youth in America is absolutely bound with the cosmopolitan culture. And wonderful dialogues. Again, I have to quote, I'm not reading all those things from, I have quoted from the novel. So wonderful dialogues and nicely developed characters pull the readers into this light of fun and read and create subtle suspense to keep you turning the pages. So it's very what we can enjoy when we are reading the novel. So Lauren Wisberg does an excellent job of showing the ups and downs that plays out a marriage when one partner calculates to stardom. So she breathes life into her characters first by revealing their feelings and letting readers into their thoughts, then by creating realistic circumstances and surrounding her protagonist with quick but believable friends and family to interact with. So although the novel is about couple, so the center of it all it is Brooke and how she comes to terms with the new dynamics of her life and marriage after her husband became a rock star or a celebrity. So initially she clings to old and comfortable lives and lives somewhat it was denial, and as the momentum builds, her life in the fast lane starts feeling authentic, complete, and what jet set parties, outrageous designer clothes, then uncompromising pictures appearing in many places, and of course temptation at every turn. So if the readers like reading gossip magazines and always wanted the inside take on the celebrity life, certainly they will love this book. So for Brooke, shopping is a very crazy activity, and buying a new type of clothes and many things are part of their life, and the act of shopping gives her the deeper kind of what excitement. So for years Brooke has stood by her musician husband Julian's side as he played gig after dark and dingy New York City bars. She works two jobs with a smile on her face because she knows that Julian's music makes her happy, and that someday he'll make it. And but when Julian finally hits the big time, it isn't the we cannot recognize the thing that what are the expectation of that girl and what happened in reality, what is happening in reality. And suddenly what
Jabina, we cannot hear you anymore.
ma'am.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, now it's clear. and also here it's raining, and due to that connectivity problem from the morning itself, it was there.
No problem.
So,
You can carry
okay.
on.
Okay, so
I will
another.
fast
Okay, okay,
because
ma'am.
I think
Okay, within second. Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you. So next is food consumption. That is varies with the cultural differences that we know, but now it has got some new implications that some kind of consumption of food products are absolutely connected with the individualism, like processed food products, and food products such as coals, fishy, soft drinks, many kind of pizza, burger, ice cream, and major food products or food items that are used by young generation of both male and female. So these all are ready to eat and drink, and like merrymaking and products that fit the convenience or orientation of short-term orientation culture. So I think now ready to wind up the paper, ma'am. Um, so very I'm first of all I'm very thankful to you, ma'am.
I just wanted to
For
know what is the name of the novel. I'm sorry, I just missed out on that because your voice
okay,
was not.
okay, ma'am. Lauren Wisberger's Last Night at Chartmont.
Okay, last.
Chartmont.
Okay,
Last night at Chartmont. Like
So you
one of
taken up- Jumina, we can't hear you.
ma'am.
Yes, you've taken up one novel for this paper.
Yeah, ma'am. Only
Oh.
one novel, Last Night at Chartmont. Title of the paper is A Compromise with Celebrity Culture, reading
All right.
Laura Wisberger's Last Night at Chartmont.
Okay, fine. Well, I think it is a very interesting paper, very interesting book you have picked up, a very different topic because we've been
Thank
reading about all other subjects, but this is something really new. And this is
Thank you.
something which is quite, you can really identify because nowadays we see a lot of page three culture around you more than the other news. You are more interested, people are more interested in knowing what the celebrities are doing. So we can identify with that. And I think it's a result of the capitalistic society that America is seen. And of course, we can call it frivolous also. And you've
Yeah,
picked up really good points. You've talked about so many things that in the novel that you have brought in the paper also,
thank
like a woman after fame and fortune and yet wanting a very stable family life. She wanted to stay grounded. Then you were talking about the glitz and the glamour and how, behind the scenes, what kind of a life they want to live. And you have brought in, of course, whatever was there in the novel, you try to bring the ultra modern lifestyles that people in America, in the US are living now, which is reflected in the novel. You can say in the latest, the latest novels of American literature. The fiction, the chick word itself is so derogatory. I think to call a girl a chick, that
Yeah,
is a
ma'am.
personal.
Always chick.
I
The
would
term
want to
itself is a derogatory term, chick
very
fiction or chick.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
And well, I think it's a good paper, and
Thank you
all the
so
best to
much,
you.
ma'am. Thank you
I don't
so
think
much.
I
Thank
can
you.
really have any query, and I can ask others if you have any query on this before we wind up. Anyone, please? I don't think so. So thank you so much for being patient, and thank you. I think Rajdanduri sir has been so patient to see all the sessions. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you, sir.
Thank
I
you
hand
so much.
I hand it over to the organizers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Abhyudita Gautam, for chairing this session. And also, I would like to thank all the presenters who have presented their paper. I request the chairperson to stay for a while. Our organizer would like to express their gratitude. So, ma'am, please stay online.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
So we have come to the 2 days international conference on American literature, which is organized by the PG Department of English of Neshamani Memorial Christian College, Marthandam, in collaboration with Cape Comorin Trust and publishers. So it was indeed a very good experience these 2 days, both in the offline mode as well as in the online mode. We had a number of wonderful presentations, wonderful resource persons. We had wonderful keynote addresses. So it was indeed a feast for all the members who have gathered here these 2 days. So let me formally thank the principal and correspondent of Neshamani Memorial Christian College, Marthandam. I also thank the members of the Cape Comorin Trust, Dr. R. Regin Silvest, Dr. R.S. Rubin Silvest, and the entire team of Cape Comorin Trust and publishers who have organized this wonderful conference along with the Neshamani Memorial Christian College. So I thank them. I also thank the resource persons, both from India and abroad. So on behalf of the college and the trust, I thank all the resource persons. And I also thank the chairpersons who chaired the paper presentation sessions on these 2 days, both online as well as in the offline platform. Especially I thank the last presenter, Abhidita ma'am, for wonderfully doing the work. Even it is around 6:30 now, but still patiently you have been doing this work. Nice to see you. Thank you so much.
Sir. Thank you to Shailja ma'am, actually Shailja Vasudev ma'am, for having invited me here. Thank you so much. It's a privilege and a pleasure.
Okay.
Great
And I also take this opportunity to thank all the paper presenters. We had a number of paper presentations.
Excellent papers.
Excellent papers. Thank you so much, madam. So I thank all the paper presenters. And finally, I thank all the participants and all the members who were with us on both the days. So thank you so much. Thank you, one and all.